Welcome to the news here on Zodiak with me, Twesa. Go see the headlines. President Chakwera underscores the need for countries to create conducive environment for children to attain Africa Agenda 2040. Malawi Tourism Council MTC plans to engage health authorities on closure of airports and borders. Smallholder farmers in the Shire Valley will soon start benefiting from the multi-billion Kwacha irrigation project. And in sports, Mighty Wanderers Football Club demands substantiated evidence from 3 of its previous coaches who claim they are yet to be paid. And now the news in detail. President Lazarus Chakwera has underscored the need for Malawi and other African countries to put more efforts in creating a conducive living environment for children to attain Africa Agenda 2040. President Chakwera said this in Mangwachi Wednesday, where he attended the 2021 Day of the African Child commemoration and launched Early Childhood Development Advocacy campaign. He, however, warned that government would discipline all parents and relations of children who are fueling violence against children in the country. Rafa Mlozowa has the details.
In 2016, Africa Committee of Experts on the Rights and Welfare of Children established a 25-year agenda dubbed Agenda 2040, fostering an Africa fit for children. The aim of the agenda is to restore dignity of the African child. The Malawi leader, Dr. Lazarus Chakwera, said if people want the 2040 to be fit for children, they should start now, making sure that every place, either home, village, school, or district, should be conducive for children. The president said the challenge is that people who are supposed to create the environment that will make places fit for children are now perpetrators of violence. UNICEF resident representative Rudolf Schwenk said the country cannot invest for the future if children who are part of the future are left out. He said while government has put in place several measures to protect children in Malawi, there is still a lot to be done. Former President Dr. Joyce Banda was among the dignitaries that attended the event. The theme for the day this year was accelerate the implementation of Agenda 2040 for an Africa fit for children. For ZBS, this is Rafael Mlozowa reporting.
Meanwhile, authorities say the country's statistics on child labor are shocking, as the act currently involves 2 million Malawian children. Speaking in Lilongwe, Deputy Minister of Labor Vera Kantukule said there is need for change in the approach in efforts to end the act, which has already affected tobacco marketing. Meanwhile, the ministry says all is set to have the law abolish tenancy farming, which fuels child labor. We have this report by Winston Kaimira.
This country has conducted a national event to commemorate World Day Against Child Labor, which is observed on 12th of June every year. During the event held in Lilongwe, United Nations Resident Coordinator Maria Jose Torres said it is frustrating that efforts to end child labor are moving at a slow pace. She said at the national level, latest statistics show that 38% of children are in child labor.
Malawi, we have statistics in 2015 that is 30% of children in Malawi are involved somehow in any kind of child labor. And we have evidence that because of COVID-19, and the data is not yet there for Malawi, but we know overall in the planet that there are more kids engaged in child labor.
Deputy Minister of Labor Vera Kantukule said figures on child labor are shocking and emphasized on the need to change the approach in dealing with the act.
Can you imagine now our numbers are pegged at 1 million? That's a lot. So what is happening now, that is having adverse effects on our economy as well. Because when you put it into perspective like that, that's when you know that we actually have a problem. So what we are saying today is that over and above what we are doing already, what else is it that we can do? And so we have to make pledges. Everyone has to ensure that they are contributing towards eliminating child labor.
On his part, President of the Employers Conservative Association of Malawi, Ekam Baxton Kayuni, said child labor tarnishes the image of local businesses. Therefore, his organization is committed to eliminate it. President of the Malawi Congress of Trade Unions, MCTU, Charles Kunchenga, said closure of schools caused by the COVID-19 pandemic has also led to violation of rights of children through sexual violence as well as child labor. The theme for this year's World Day Against Child Labour is Act Now, End Child Labour. This is Winston Kaimira reporting for Zodiak.
The Malawi Tourism Council MTC says it is planning to engage the Ministry of Health to discuss the way forward on the closure of airports and borders, as this hugely affects the tourism sector. The Council's Executive Director, Richard Mjetseni, hopes government will exhaust measures which will also have them in favour, and Ministry of Health spokesperson Joshua Malango says the ministry will grant them an audience. Alina Femlamba has more in this report.
Executive Director for Malawi Tourism Council, Richard Mjetseni, has bemoaned that extension of COVID-19 restrictions continue to affect businesses, arguing that the country's tourism sites sometimes register few or no tourists. Mjetseni fears the magnitude of the losses to be incurred has an impact on the sector, hence the decision to engage government to exhaust ways that will ensure that the industry is not affected. The remarks have been made following extension of COVID-19 restrictions in the country's entry points.
What happened to the industry is, in some respects, other businesses have totally collapsed. Jobs have been lost, and the economy has been battered. But particularly this one is also devastating because we were picking up. Then all of a sudden, as we anticipate growth, then something happens again. Ministry
of Health spokesperson Joshua Malango says the ministry is ready for dialogue.
The entrance of people into the country is still in force. The one of COVID-19 prevention. So it's not necessarily that the minister or Minister of Health which imposes the restrictions. And those restrictions are really clarified here that it doesn't mean that the borders are closed. The borders and our airports are still open. But the provision of visa and allowing people to enter into the country should be based on the services one is providing. If there are essential services providers are coming into the country.
Before the COVID-19 pandemic, the tourism sector contributed about 400 billion kwacha annually to the country's economy. In 2020 alone, over 35,000 people were laid off due to closure of some hospitality businesses.
Meanwhile, Deputy Minister of Health Chrise Kalamola Kanyasio has called on Malawians to take precaution, saying that the country and its neighboring countries are entering into a third wave of COVID-19. She spoke Wednesday at Capitol Hill when receiving a donation of personal protective equipment PPEs worth 9.8 million kwacha and cash amounting to 200,000 kwacha from the Roads Authority. Innocent Kunchedwa has more in this report.
The Deputy Minister of Health, Chrise Kalamola Kanyasio, says that developments in Zambia and South Africa, as well as recent rise in COVID-19 cases in Malawi, there is no doubt that we are heading into a third wave. In light of this, she has encouraged the citizenry to take precaution. The remarks were made on Wednesday in Lilongwe when Roads Authority donated PPE to the Ministry of Health.
This pandemic, it's now getting into the third wave. Our neighbors, South Africa, Zambia, their cases are rising, even here in Malawi. So I would urge all Malawians out there to take precautions. Wash your hands. Go and get the vaccination.
Board chairperson for the Roads Authority, Joel Nkhani, says the donation is a response to President Lazarus Chakwera's calls to the corporate world to help in the fight against COVID-19, but also a gesture of solidarity, saying the construction is one of the worst affected sector by the pandemic.
The pandemic hasn't spared the construction industry, to which the Roads Authority is a very, very key stakeholder.
Currently, the construction sector has lost 5 prominent engineers to COVID-19.
In Parliament, the Parliamentary Cluster on Health has called on government to consider procuring COVID-19 vaccines on its own rather than depending on donor support. Co-chairperson of the cluster, Dr. Matthews Ngwale, said in Parliament when presenting a report on the 2021-2022 national budget Wednesday afternoon that this country needs to show its commitment by procuring some vaccine before involving well-wishers. Details with Winston Kaimira.
The call by the Parliamentary Cluster on Health comes at a time the country is running short of COVID-19 AstraZeneca vaccine. During the Wednesday parliamentary proceedings, co-chairperson for Health and Nutrition Cluster, Dr. Matthews Ngwale, expressed worry that there is no budget allocation for the procurement of the COVID-19 vaccine in the proposed 2021-2022 national budget. But Minister of Health, Kumbezeka Ndodo Chiponda, says plans are already in place for the country to procure the vaccine. During the Wednesday parliamentary proceedings, almost all co-chairpersons for parliamentary clusters that presented reports expressed concern over inadequate resources that have been allocated to various government ministries, departments and agencies in the proposed budget. For instance, the media, communications, industry, trade and tourism cluster said in its report that over 30 employees of NICE Public Trust have been fired in the current financial year, and jobs for more are at risk as the institution faces a 128 million kwacha funding gap. The education cluster expressed worry that there are no funds for the recruitment of teachers at a time the learner-teacher ratio remains high in the country's public schools. This is Winston Kaimira reporting for Zodiak.
You're watching the news on Zodiak. We'll be back with more after this.
Malawi wotu kugamba chuma awani masompenya amalawi watoju kula Malawi 2063 akale wosi Mibawa kufika 2063 akale wogomera aliyense achinyamata tikwira ne manja kula Malawi achinyamata tikale patsogolo kula Malawi Malawi wosi Mibawa Malawi 2063 kusinda dziko lathu mokomera aliyense.
If there's one thing that all soaps do, it's wash. From buckets to basins, bathrooms to streams, and everything in between.
All soaps wash.
Yes, but Protex is different. Its reinvented formula with flaxseed oil boosts your skin's natural anti-germ defenses by 10 times more, protecting you against 99.9% of germs. So what keeps us healthy?
Protex!
Good health starts here.
Kungwonjezera mayunitsi ATNM kuyambira 200 kwacha kapena kuposera pamenepo mutha kukhala mmodzi mwa mamilioneya mu TNM Tikolole promotion. Koma mukaonjezera mayunitsi ndi 100 kwacha kapena kuposerapo mudzilandira mabonus oyimbira foni, SMS kapena data pompo.
TNM, always with you.
Welcome back. Here are the top stories again. President Chakwera underscores the need for countries to create conducive environment for children to attain the Africa Agenda 2040. Tourism Council of Malawi plans to engage health authorities on closure of airports and borders. Smallholder farmers in the Shire Valley will soon start benefiting from the multi-billion kwacha irrigation project. And in sports, Mighty Wanderers Football Club demands substantiated evidence from 3 of its previous coaches. Moving on, expectations are high that farmers in the Shire Valley will soon have increased and sustainable incomes and food security. This follows revelation by Agriculture Minister Lobin Lowe that the farmers will start benefiting from the Shire Valley Transformation Program even before construction works of the canal ends. Details with Masozi Kasambara.
The Shire Valley Transformation Program is probably the biggest construction project which the Malawi government, with support from the World Bank, is currently undertaking. The canal, which originates from Kapichira intake point in Chikwawa, will have to cover 130 kilometers to Bangula in Sanje. The program has a total irrigatable area of over 43,000 hectares. The objective of the Shire Valley Transformation Program is to increase agricultural productivity and commercialization. The program also focuses on improving the sustainable management and utilization of natural resources. Minister of Agriculture, Robin Lowe, is visiting the project to appreciate progress of the works. The minister says farmers should expect reaping fruits of the program soon, as water for irrigation will be available even much earlier than the construction works end.
I can assure you I'm very impressed. There is good progress, and this is very encouraging. I just wanted to learn level of preparedness in terms of transformation for the list of farmers. And I'm still engaging with my ministry to make sure that this does not turn into another white elephant. We have projects in the country which are white elephants. And the aim is to make sure that at some point we should be able as a country to start utilizing the water resources. We shouldn't wait until the whole canal is completed. Say 10 kilometers. Farmers should now start utilizing the resources, and we'll learn from that end.
So far, a compensation amounting to 1.4 billion kwacha has already been given to households that have been affected by the project. For Zodiak, Masos Kasambala reporting from Chikwawa.
Pigeon pea farmers in the country are expected to enjoy from their toil following a memorandum of understanding that Malawi and India have signed that will see the exportation of 50,000 metric tons to India annually for the next 5 years. Indian High Commissioner to Malawi says his government might increase the tonnage if Malawi performs well in the agreement. Minister of Trade Sosten Gwengwe says the trade deal would see Malawi benefit beyond the $261 million that is currently benefiting annually. Andrew Viano has further report.
Malawi's pigeon peas market has widened following a memorandum of understanding between governments of Malawi and India that will see exportation of 50,000 metric tons annually to India starting from this season. The Indian opportunity is coming at a time government is looking for ways to diversify its economy in the face of dwindling tobacco sales on the international market due to, among other factors, World Health Organization's anti-smoking campaign. India High Commissioner to Malawi, Sri Gopala Krishnan, says the agreement will intensify trade partnership between the two countries.
We were dedicated to work this, to implement it in the very season, this season itself. And also I would like to thank High Commissioner George Makandivo on his part in Delhi. He also worked hard. Finally it has worked out. So we will be starting the trade in the very season.
Trade Minister Sosten Gwengwe says the MOU will help in increasing foreign exchange earnings for the country.
There is now a market. You know, when you are a farmer, one painful experience is to cultivate when you don't even know where you're going to sell your products. So as Minister of Trade, our job is to facilitate and try and find markets so that the farmers go into cultivation knowing that there will be a market in India or somewhere else.
Nandolo Farmers Association of Malawi President Susan Chimbayo says the deal will help them enjoy from their toil.
This is a very memorable day we've been looking forward to. You know, farmers, their problem is that they can't have market. Even if they grow, we've been talking of production, but there's no market. So today is a very wonderful, happy day for us.
India is the major importer, producer and consumer of pigeon peas in the world.
Police in Mulanje are demolishing shops along the road at Limbuli in an operation to vacate vendors from the street and old market to relocate to the new Limbuli market. This morning, ESCOM officials in the company of police officers switched off power at Limbuli Trading Center and removed cables from all shops along the road. Hastings Jimani reports from Mulanje.
Police in Mulanje are demolishing shops at the old Limboli market and along the road. The law enforcers were engaged by Mulanje District Council to force vendors operating their business along the road and old Limboli market and relocate to the new Limboli market. And a month ago, police forced the vendors to the new market, but reports were emerging that some vendors were relocating back to the old market. So this morning, police from Mulanje and Mloza stormed the trading center, and as I'm speaking now, they are demolishing all shops along the street and those at the old market. In the morning, ESCOM officials in escort of police switched off electricity at the trading center and removed cables from all the shops along the road and the old market before the operation began. For Zodiak in Mulanje, this is Hastings Jimani reporting.
The quasi-religious body Public Affairs Committee is scheduled to present the Ministry of Education a report on recommendations on the dress code impasse between Muslims and owners of Christian education institutions. The dress code impasse involving school authorities in some Muslim communities forced the Roman Catholic Church to close its Impiri primary school in Machinga recently. Matonga explains to Blessings Kangombe.
Public Affairs Committee will be making a presentation of those recommendations to the Ministry of Education at a function that has been organized at Mount Sochi on Thursday at 10 a.m. So different stakeholders have been invited and will be in attendance. Particular mention would be the faith community, the Muslims and Christians, the mother body, then as well as the two ministries, Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Civic Education and National Unity. Those ministries will be there, and we are expecting as well UNDP that had helped Public Affairs Committee with funding of this particular dialogue. So all these people will be available on Thursday. The main agenda really is to present to the Minister of Education the recommendations that have been produced by the Dialogue Committee, and then at the end of the day, the mother bodies are signing a memorandum of understanding on the issue of the dress code as a result of the discussions that happened.
In sports, Mighty Wanderers Football Club are demanding substantiated evidence from 3 of its previous coaches who claim are yet to be paid their dues dating back to 6 years now. 3 coaches, Frank Ondawa, Elia Kananji and Oscar Kaunda, have sought the intervention of the National Football Coaches Association to help soliciting their outstanding dues that are in excess of 10 million kwacha. But club chairperson Chance Gondwe says the club is capable of settling the case if served with concrete evidence from the coaches. Meanwhile, the Coaches Association says its newly hired legal advisor will take up the matter. Sambanda reports.
Franco Ndawa, who is now managing Civil Service United, is said to be owed 5 million kwacha after serving the Lali Lubani heavyweights between 2012 and 2014, whilst Oscar Kaunda, who is now deputy coach at Karonga United, is being owed 4 million kwacha after a brief stint with the blue and white side of Blantyre, and Elia Kananji, who guided the Nomads to the Kazbek Cup triumph in 2015, is yet to be paid around 900,000 kwacha as part of his dues between 2014 and 2016. The 3 coaches have failed in their several attempts to get their dues, despite previous authorities at Mighty Wanderers making a commitment through FAM to settle the payments. Meanwhile, the 3 have sought the intervention of the National Football Coaches Association, whose General Secretary Dave Mpima says the association's newly hired legal advisor will take up the matter with the Nomads.
Some of the coaches have stayed 5 months without paying them, breaching the obligations of the club to the coach to make sure that our coaches are protected, because the lawyer will give us guidelines, what things should we for before the coaches sign their contract. We make sure that our coaches are really defended.
But Mighty Wanderers Football Club chairperson, Council Chance Gondwe, says the club is capable of paying the coaches outstanding dues on condition that they serve the club with evidence to back their claims.
First of all, they were supposed to approach the new executive so that maybe it could have been handled in that manner. We have documentation. Let us do the claim. We should take it from there. But we can't fail to pay anybody we owe for the services they rendered to the club. Let them prove their claims. Maybe there are contestations on some issues.
Statistics indicate that many local coaches do not have contractual agreements with their clubs.
And that's about what we have time for in this news edition. But before we go, a look at the headlines. President Chakwera underscores the need for countries to create conducive environment for children to attend Africa Agenda 2040. Tourism Council of Malawi plans to engage health officials on closure of airports and borders. Smallholder farmers in the Shire Valley will soon start benefiting from the multi-billion kwacha irrigation project. And Mighty Wanderers Football Club demands substantiated evidence from 3 of its previous coaches who claim are yet to be paid their dues dating back to 6 years. Visit our website zodiacmalawi.com for more news. My name is Kwesa Ngosi. From the rest of the news crew, thanks for watching and bye for now.
At Access, we believe that data is life because we know that you want to know what's happening out there, and you also need to share what's happening with your life.